Great. So my name is Pranshu Bajpai. I go by the handle of Am I Root Yet on Twitter. I'm a PhD candidate and security researcher at Michigan State University. I've been a white hat hacker for a while now. And so these are stories from the underground. I've slapped together a few stories for you, things I've noticed over the years. And unfortunately, though, cybercriminals don't really leave behind a lot of cool audio clips. They don't make a lot of noise, so I've got no cool audio clips for you today, and I'm sorry about that. But yeah, so no discussion of cybercrime is complete without the immutable laws of Hollywood hacking. The first law, speed of typing denotes the quality of the hacker. Okay, it's directly proportional to the quality of the hacker. Faster they're typing, that means shit is serious. All right, so the next thing is number of windows popping on the screen, in front of you, that's the quality, that denotes the quality of hacking being done. And the last one is hackers use terminals with green fonts, or they use ultra high def 3D representations of the system they're hacking. There's no in between. It's either a super primitive system or it's a high def 3D model. So with that in mind, let's step into the underground. All right, so what we have is we'll start easy with the underground market. You see requests like this in underground communities a lot. These are beginners, which is all right. But remember, these are people seeking a career in the cybercrime industry, so they're looking to harm computers, infringe upon people's privacy, leave spyware on their computers. Extort money using ransomware and all of that. So they're looking for help. So in this particular example, they'll go by, well, I'm looking to get into the admin password in my school, only for fun though. I do know Python, so, and then, so we see a lot of requests like this, and you've seen the requests about if anybody has anything to do with hacking, the first request they'll ever receive is going to be something along the lines of, can you hack somebody, can you help me hack this person's Facebook? So those are common things that we see. Then these things progress on to more serious stuff, which is I've written a custom remote access tool, and I've infiltrated 30 computers. What now? So these are the kind of people who will hack first and ask questions later. So the strategy is that there is no strategy. First, we'll see if we can break in, and then we'll decide how to make money. So mining Monero on people's computers had become a big source of funds for these cyber criminals in 2018. Because of the devaluation of cryptocurrency right now, the trend is no longer in practice, but ransomware is still a big threat. So then we have sellers. So this, for example, is, okay, I have some experience in the botnet industry, and if anybody needs help to spread some malware, I can help you. So one person goes, well, yeah, you're a Fed. And so, no, I'm not. Yeah, that's what a Fed would say. So there's a lot of discussions. You have to sift through all of these to get to the more serious parts of the underground. And so what we like to do, so these are the discussions you see on the surface. What do you see when a hacker actually breaks in? So this was a security researcher set up a honeypot. Honeypots are intentionally vulnerable systems that we leave open out in the wild so that hackers can break in and we can observe their activity on a system. This gives us insight into what their new tactics are and what kind of techniques they use. So this is a small clip of an attacker breaking in. So first, W is not a command. Wget, well, I need a URL to download something on the computer. So, so we go ahead and type a URL. And then this is then followed by a whole sequence of them trying to navigate to a particular location. For some reason, the video seems to be not working. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you what they tried to do. And they tried to do this. So this is the sequence of commands that they were typing on the computer, right? The quest to get to this location, it is really hard to navigate to this location on a Unix system if you don't understand how file structure works on a Unix machine. So a lot of, queue about a minute or two of trying to get to the location. And then when everything else works, there's always room to download Windows 2011 update on a Unix box because that will solve everything, okay? So we still don't know why this particular, if you can find this video on YouTube, it's titled "The World's Worst Hacker." So, all right, so moving on. So we've got cryptojacking, right? So like I said, this was a big trend in 2018. We saw a lot of this. So what happens is you end up on a computer, you end up on a website which has got a small JavaScript miner embedded in the background in the HTML. And so while you're looking at content on the web page, it's mining Monero in the background. And so what you see is, okay, well, this is your system before, right? Your cores are not really in use, and the system is idling. As soon as you're on the website, bam, 100% usage of all of the 4 cores. Now, this is a very Hulk smash kind of strategy, because this is, even the most non-suspecting user will get aware about your presence, because now they can't get any work done because your Monero mining is hogging their CPU. So not a great strategy. This I consider a failure, because a better strategy would have been to, let's say, only mine at 50% CPU capacity, and then you can mine for longer, hopefully make more money. But yeah, not the best approach over here. Okay, well, let's move on to crypto malware next. So these are basically examples of ransomware. And so how they work is you've got your files. These are important, irreplaceable files. And they have an encryption routine. So they're able to infiltrate a computer. They have an encryption routine. And they have a secret key or a private key, which they use to encrypt your files, and now your files are unavailable to you. So then they like to extort money. Usually it's about $300 per PC. And if you give them the money, then they'll give you the key, right? And you can use that key to decrypt your files. And so that's the general, that's an oversimplification, but that's the general strategy for what they're going for. Now, as you can guess, the secrecy of this private key is paramount to their operation, because that's the leverage that they have to carry forward go forward with the extortion. So, all right. So with that in mind, let's see how malware developers show love to malware analysts. Well, there's always hidden messages in the binary. So because we don't have access to the source code of the malware, we have to reverse engineer the binary and look at the disassembly. So this is a disassembly, and so they hide subtle messages here and there. I've redacted a lot of profanity, so I'm only showing the PG-13 kind of examples. Some not so subtle messages left for the victims or the malware analysts. So there's imagine playing Call of Duty against an 11-year-old online. That's the kind of all right, so that's the kind of behavior you can expect. So now you've got particular examples of ransomware which did not do things right. So first clue over here is, okay, so while reverse engineering the security community notice, the first clue over here is, well, this is a ransomware, by the way. Dolphin.exe pertains to OphionLocker ransomware. And so one thing you notice while reverse engineering it is it's written as a console application. This is not meant to be a console application, though. Ransomware is like a Win32. So when you're in the programming environment in Windows, you should select Win32 for the kind of job that they're doing. This kind of gives us a clue. It's an odd choice to make. That gives us a clue that they don't really know what they're doing. Moving forward, you have static strings embedded in the binary. And if you Google those strings, it's taken straight from the sample code available at cryptocpp.com. So there's a lot of copy pasting going on. So all right, so we now know that it's definitely not a great, ransomware. And then, it stops working because exception handling. Do error handling, people. It's trying to communicate to the command and control server and trying to make a request to obtain a key from the command and control server. When they're testing it on their system, I'm assuming everything went great. So they were like, well, there could never be an exception. So if on a victim's computer, when the ransomware was making a request to the CNC server, to the command and control server, if for some reason the communication could not happen, the ransomware just ended up crashing. So exception handling is important. And so this is another example of a ransomware called CryptoDefense. This one did a great blunder. It was a laughing stock of the whole community, by the way. This one actually, so when you're implementing cryptographic functionality in ransomware, these are difficult tasks. So you have to make requests to the crypto library that's already available on Windows, because they cannot implement all of these things from scratch. You saw the kind of mistakes they're making. They don't want to go ahead and write all the crypto code. So they make requests to the crypto API on Windows, but they don't even know how to get that done, right? So even to make the calls, that's not easy. So what they do is they look up the Microsoft documentation available online on MSDN, and this particular example right here available on the Microsoft website, this just works. This is how you make calls to the crypto API. If you're trying to acquire the crypto context on a Windows box, you do this, and this just works. So they copy-pasted that. What they didn't notice was this one condition which was important, which they didn't bother reading about, is this option is intended for applications that are using ephemeral keys or applications that do not require access to the persisted private keys. So that means if you did not set this option, then it's going to leave a perfectly nice preserved copy of the private key in C drive in the root folder. So they encrypted everything, demanded ransom. Security researchers made a program that would just acquire the private key from that location for the victims and decrypt everybody's files. So the whole operation ended up becoming a failure. So this is why you have to read the documentation. You cannot be an elite hacker if you don't read the documentation. Just don't copy-paste the most primary example. All right, so then this ransomware was meant to encrypt servers. There's a lot more leverage because servers host very important files, so there's a lot more leverage. So it was written in PHP. So this time, for once, we have access to the source code because, PHP. So this is the key generation function. So this particular ransomware, this arrives on a victim's machine and generates a key that they use to then encrypt a victim's computer. So like I said, the secrecy of the key is paramount to their operation. This is the procedure that they're using to generate the key. Now, as you can see, this is not a big secret because all that's kind of ephemeral in there is that date that they're using and the server. So if I execute this on my virtual machine while testing as a security researcher, I can see that, okay, well, that's the document root, that's the server name, which is the private IP address denoted there. And then they use the date in 3 different forms. Then they go through this set of procedures of MD5 and gzip compress and MD5 again and base64 again. Let's make this as secure as possible, except that the base material is not that secure because I can generate that. Then I go through the same process that you went through, and I ended up with the key that's supposed to be a secret. So not great. And then this ransomware takes the cake, though. This one did everything correctly. This one was like, all right, well, I've encrypted your files, now I demand the ransom. Well, security researchers took a look at the binary. Well, we find that this particular module right here is writing the key. So what do you mean by writing the key to file? Well, it's writing the key, so the key that it used to encrypt the file, after the encryption was done, it appended the key to that same file. So now it became a simple matter of extracting the right amount of bytes from the file and then using those bytes to decrypt that file. So this is like you go and you make that ransom phone call and go, I have your loved one, give me $1 million. And before this time, then you're like, I hope they don't look in their basement. So this is that kind of approach. So not so good. Again, this one was an effective ransomware, and what they did is they have this email address that they wanted to communicate to victims with over, and well, Postio said, well, yeah, we're not going to stand for that. We do not tolerate misuse of our platform, so they could never get in touch with their victims again. That means the victims have no incentive to pay anymore because they know that Postio has dropped that email address. So again, not great strategy. So in conclusion, do not believe Hollywood hackers. There's a very small percentage of attackers that are actually elite or have any real skill. A lot of them steal from each other. They do a lot of copy pasting. The code is not effective. There is no need to go over the dark side. We have security industry has a very developed platform now where we encourage youngsters to join the light side of the force, the white side. So, ask me how. If you're interested in any kind of activity where it involves like reverse engineering a malware or penetration testing a box to find vulnerabilities, then ask me how you can get in. Yeah, but don't illegally hack people's computers. There's no glamour or glory in that, despite what Hollywood will show you. Right, and that's all I've got for you. Here's an obligatory hacker's call. Thank you.